contract on a periodic basis. And since that had not been done, I suggested to the city manager that we issue an RFP to see what services could be provided to the city from our current firm as compared to other firms. So that was done following the March meeting, and the submissions were due in April, late April, and we had 6 firms respond to that request: Bell Harris, Brooks Cardiel, Derelict Butler, Patilla Brown, that's our current auditors, Weaver and Tidwell, and Whitley Penn. And 4 of these firms are in Houston or the Houston area. 2 firms are out of town. Patilla Brown is in Waco, and Derelict Butler is in San Antonio. So it was a surprise to get that many responses. It was a good news, bad news, because that meant we had to review 6 responses, which I was certainly happy to do. The RFP basically stressed the importance of municipal experience, particularly in cities similar in size to Deer Park, and as well qualifications and technical ability were underscored in the RFP process. And the evaluation criteria was basically a 100-point weighted criteria, and it was stressed that, again, the decision would be based on competence and qualifications, although 10 points were assigned to the pricing aspect. And our goal was to find a firm that would be most qualified to perform the city's audit services for up to the next 5 years, including reviews of the financial statements, preparation of the CAF, which is our annual report, completing single audits as necessary, and then availability to respond to other concerns and questions that we might have throughout the year. As an example, when we issue debt, sometimes we want to review that journal entry and make sure that we have everything reported properly associated with the bond issuance. After going through the evaluation, myself and another member of the finance staff went through the evaluations, or the responses rather. We had 2 respondents that stood out, and so we invited those 2 firms to come in and meet with the city. And they met with the city manager, the assistant city manager, myself as director of finance, and then our senior accountant, who will be working most directly with them on the audit. And they met with us. Both of them did a very good job of presenting their firms and their qualifications. And in the end, we ended up developing a recommendation to go with Bell Harris Peachesec, which is a local firm that's very experienced in municipal audits. They have 40 cities in their client base and 18 of 27 cities that are in this Gulf Coast region. So they're the most familiar with things such as the industrial district and other things that are unique to this area of the state and unique to the city of Deer Park. So with that, I'll entertain any questions, and I'd also let you know that we have 2 partners from the firm, Robert Belt and Stephanie Harris, who are here this evening, and if I could, I'd invite them up if you'd like to hear from them, to say a few words about their firm.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. Along with me is Stephanie Harris. I'm Robert Belt, managing partner of Belt Harris. It almost feels like we're among friends here in terms of how many people we know. We've been involved with the Harris County Mayor Councils Association for some 23 years now, so we've had the opportunity to dine with many of you. I had the opportunity of serving with Charles Garrison on the Harris County Appraisal District for a number of years, doing the audit there. And then I've also had the opportunity to work with a number of the city officials here working with other cities. Donna was saying we audit 18 of the 27 cities predominantly located within Harris County. So Pasadena and Baytown being some of the larger ones that we work with. It's a pleasure to be here and appreciate the staff's recommendation.
Anybody have any questions?
We have one question. I was very happy to see that you have some knowledge about the industrial contracts. When does our industrial contract come up for?
It comes up, it expires at the end of 14.
Because I know that is a very tedious job.
Councilman Harrison, roll call. Thank you. The second item on the agenda is issues, discussing issues related to the seniors meals.
Mayor and Council, The senior meals program, I want to visit with you a little bit. We were able to collect bids on April 29th. We had 3 interested vendors that submitted bids to be able to provide meals for our senior program through the Maxwell Center. Through that bid process, staff has been able to evaluate, thoroughly review those bids. We have contacted the references, and have also discussed on numerous occasions with the lowest bidder, which was Valley Services. However, through those references and through actual contacts with Valley Services, we realized and came to an agreement that those Valley Services is not able to provide what we actually asked for through those specifications. There's some areas that they cannot meet, such as they're not able to deliver our meals in the time frame that we need to on a daily basis. They're not able to provide the flexibility that we need for our meal plan, so that there's something that we want to change on the menu or something we don't like, we want to get away with or switch up, or the quantity of food that we provide for different things. We're not able to be flexible on that. That was one of the requirements that we had in our specifications. And also on the quality of the expected quality of our seniors for this program, and we're not able to provide that specification. And so there's a letter in the packet from, or an email from the representative that we talked to that's a regional person for Valley Services. With that, we contacted and discussed with the second lowest bidder, which is the best value bid that we received, and it's the lowest bid that actually meets all the specifications in the bid process. And so they can meet all those requirements that we specified. They are currently our vendor that we utilize at the Maxwell Center. We have had minimal problems that we've been able to work out with them. We've had a great relationship with them. The seniors that we have that share with those meals and take part in those meals have really enjoyed the services that they provided over the last 2 years. And so staff is recommending today that in regular session that y'all approve and enter into a contract with KHSS Venture, also known as Skillets, to provide those meal services for the seniors through the Maxwell Center. We provide roughly 100 meals a day through our homebound and 40 meals a day congregate there at the facility. So with that, I'll entertain any questions that y'all may have.
Mr. Engineer.
I want to say, please pass to Charlie, congratulations and thank you for such a very thorough report. I know in times past it's been difficult. Obviously they're doing a good job because the congregate meals and the at-home meals have greatly increased. So that's a sign that they're getting good service, so that's good.
And one thing I forgot to mention in the letter or the email from Valley, he mentioned that he was very impressed with the program that we were able to provide here, in which is other cities and more cities took that opportunity to provide that service to their seniors. So that was a big compliment I felt for our city and what we do for our seniors here.
Just curious, does it come out of the skillets over on Spencer?
Yes, ma'am.
And they cook it there and bring it straight from there?
Any discussion? Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion of issues relating to the detention pond rehabilitation project.
Mayor, Council, I appreciate the opportunity to come speak to you tonight. For those who might be a new face, my name's Wesley Brandon. I'm the stormwater specialist for the city. Project I've submitted to you involves doing some rehabilitation work to our city-owned and maintained detention ponds. We currently own and operate 9 detention ponds throughout the city. A few of them serve our municipal buildings and others serve residential subdivisions. This project would involve the depending on the pond the contractor would be working in, they would be doing some work as simple as cleanup, scraping out the, what I call the low flow channel, which is a concrete channel at the bottom of the pond to help water flow out during small rain events. So it would be cleaning that out and disposing of all the debris that's built up in the ponds and revegetating bare areas. Then there's other ponds that require some pretty major regrading work. For instance, pond number 8. Now, in your packet, I believe I hopefully had a map that shows where all the ponds are and which property they're associated with. Pond number 8 requires a significant amount of regrading work. It's, I don't know that when the pond was installed that vegetation was well established and just over the years has continued to degrade. And so this project would involve hiring a contractor to go to each of the ponds that I've listed and do the work that's described in our specifications. With that,
Any questions?
Yeah, you made some reference to maybe the need of fencing. Why would there need to be fencing?
in some of the ponds, we've had an issue with trespassing. We've had an issue with people dumping trash in the detention ponds. I believe there was one photo that's actually inside that pond number 8 that shows a significant amount of debris that is placed there. It also alleviates safety concerns when ponds are that deep, especially when they're so close to a residential area. It's normally a standard practice to enclose that area with a fence and gates.
Well, what we're talking about now is just the actual cleaning and maintaining and regrading.
That's correct.
We're not talking about the fencing.
That's
This cannot be done in-house. This is not something that the city of Deer Park could do in-house.
I would say it'd be very difficult for our staff to do it in-house for 2 reasons. One, the equipment that's required is equipment that we don't have available all the time. A lot of, even if it is available, it's usually being used for other projects. The other reason is the scheduling of the streets and maintenance, street and bridge maintenance staff. They usually are booked up when it comes to making repairs to sidewalks and cleaning out other areas of the city. We have, a lot of flood control ditches, and they spend a lot of time, especially during the summer, cleaning out those channels. So those are probably the 2 reasons I would recommend hiring a contractor, because they can come in and do it all at once.
Just have one more question. When would this work be completed? Are we gonna have this done before hurricane season?
I fully expect to have it done at least by the end of the budget year, which would be September. I'm estimating that it should take about 30 to 45 days to complete. The bidding process usually takes 6 to 8 weeks after we advertise and get the contracts prepared.
The money allowed $146,000. You feel like that's enough to cover all of the ponds?
Yes, sir. My estimate, I calculated that to do everything other than the fencing would cost around $106,000. And those are probably conservative numbers. If that includes a 10% contingency, it also considers supplemental work items that would help cover expenses or costs that are not part of the base work. For instance, if the contractor has to bring in more topsoil than what we originally estimated, there are pay items where we can pay for that extra. And I've also included, I've broken the fencing work out into 2 alternates. Because if the base bid comes in at what I've estimated or below, we would have just enough money, I feel, to put fencing around pond number 6 and 8, which is the Destiny subdivision. It's on the west side of town. It's Chandler Drive. There's actually 2 ponds that are connected to each other. One's on the north end of the subdivision, just off Pasadena Boulevard, and the other is on Catalina Avenue.
How long do you think the process will take?
We advertise for 2 weeks. It usually takes around 6 weeks, I would say. It usually takes after we award the project, when we award the project, we would have gone through a 2-week advertising process. We would have had a pre-bid meeting, and then allowed time for the contractors to prepare their bids. And then after that, we award the project, and it usually takes 3 to 4 weeks to get the contracts prepared.
So 6 weeks from tonight, we should have a contract. Or 6 weeks from now.
That would be pretty close.
July before they can start work. And you think it'll all be done by September?
I think so.
Thank you.
Were you thinking about any other fencing other than the Destiny ones?
The other ad alternate was the pond numbers 5A and 5B, which are 2 big ponds on East P Street. I broke those out separately just because of how close those estimates came to the budget. And if I had them together, we wouldn't be able to award an ad alternate if it put us over budget.
Okay, the one on the south side of East Street has a lot of, like a walking trail around it, a lot of activity around it. And I would hate to see that fencing curtail that activity for the neighborhood.
I thought about that. My recommendation, and I'm showing it on the plan sheet. When you have a fence along the front of that pond, there's two points that walking trail connects to the sidewalk along the road. I would recommend breaking the fence at those 2 points, and then placing, 3 to 4 feet behind that break, another full fence section. The school district has that at Deer Park Elementary. They have a break in the fence, but then there's a fence section directly behind that. That keeps vehicles from going in and out, which is something we've had an issue with, is people on 4-wheelers or off-road vehicles. It's a great.
Because I know at one time we had talked about the utilization at the bottom of these areas to be used for like soccer practice and those kind of things. So now we're advancing, kind of changing to where they're going to be fenced in and unable to be accessed. But if they have the area where they can by foot, then that still could be utilized for, flag football or whatever.
And that's if we did put the fencing there, I would definitely make sure that there are areas for vehicles to park, have enough room to maneuver.
Thank you. Next item, discussion of issues relating to the hotel occupancy tax contract.
Hello, Mayor, council members, City Manager. Glad to be with you this evening. I think there was a question about some reports that we are delinquent in, and would like to clarify why we are, and then answer any questions that y'all might have for us as well. As you know, that we are required to provide you with a agreed upon procedures audit at the end of the fiscal year. And this last year, when we ended up our fiscal year, I noticed some coding errors in our financial bookkeeping. And so we went through that process, we looked at it, and then we turned around and we turned it over to our accountant. She went through it, and she went through it, gave it back to me, and then I went back over it again. It was just coding errors. There wasn't anything wrong with the checkbook ledgers or anything of that nature. It was just simply within our P&L is what it boiled down to. And so we in turn got that documentation taken care of, and then we have turned it over to the accounting firm that performs the agreed upon procedure. And that information was turned over to them last Thursday. And to be quite frank about it, they've worked very diligently in moving forward with that and getting that information together. And looks like we'll probably have that actual report for you and ready for you to review by the end of this week. We know that the draft form's already been formulated and they're reviewing it now. We'll probably see a draft of that tomorrow, and then after that, we'll have a hard copy to present to them, or to turn into Mr. Tex.
Wasn't this due in December?
Yes, ma'am. It was due the end of December. And I will be the first to tell you, Ms. Garrison, if it falls on my shoulders, I take full responsibility for it not being turned in and getting it done. Not the fact that we were lacking getting it done or not trying to get it done, it was just the process of me reviewing it and our accountant being able to review it.
Did you notify the city that this was the reason why you weren't sending them?
I did send one email report to Mr. Stokes, I believe it was in February, and just stated that we were running behind on the report. And that was the last response that I had given him.
So how often are these reports supposed to, these audit reports supposed to be done?
It's done at the end of the year. It's done at the end of the fiscal year.
It's the end of
Yes, ma'am. Because what we do is we provide council, or provide staff with a monthly report of the bank statement and what we've spent each of those checks for. So we get pretty detailed on that. So that way you know. You see the bank statement, and then you see our report stating what each of those checks were written for, the reason why that check is there. So you just don't see a check number written to someone. It gives an explanation of why that check was written. We do that monthly, and then of course we come quarterly and give our quarterly report to full council and go back over those same transactions. And then the agreed upon procedure, what it basically does is it just says that we're doing what we're supposed to do as far as expenditures and budget items. We're spending those in the proper budget line items, and that the city's responding and doing the things that they're supposed to do as well.
Well, I understand that, but it still was tardy 5 months.
I agree.
And I have looked at the contract, I know we have a contract with the chamber, and it specifically says that it is due in December. So that bothers me a bit, the fact that it was that late.
If I were sitting in your chair, I would agree with you. And I can assure you that we are rectifying that problem, and it will not happen again.
Mr. Harrison?
My question was there procedures in place for it to not occur again? You just accepted it last day?
Absolutely.
Well, I have several questions and some concerns, if you'll bear with me.
Sure.
You've answered, the first question, Councilwoman Garrison asked about the contract and why it was late. But I was under the impression, and I kind of agree with her. It bothers me that there was not more communication between you and Jay. If it was, why it was late and kind of where things stood because of the contract. So I took the contract and I just really looked at it very closely, and it also calls for, it says appropriate outdoor directional and site signage for the visitor center. Do we have that?
What we're doing is, what we've done as far as that information is concerned, on our electronic sign that we have out front, it consistently rotates through and says visitor information inside. And so that's what we've done to this point. We've talked about in our committee meetings about getting additional signage and putting additional signage. We've talked about getting with TxDOT and providing signage out on the 225 exit in some of those areas. So those are things that we are looking at. We've even talked about getting with Public Works or someone within the city as well, and maybe doing some more directional signage, much like what you see at the showing the direction for the golf course and those things.
Because in my mind, that's what that means.
Right.
It's separate. Is that, do we know if that's what it meant, or
Well,
that
we-
it was agreed upon that?
It wasn't really agreed upon one way or the other. We just said that we would look at different options that was available to let people know when they come to town where they could pick up information.
Because that's, you know, for using the hotel motel funds, that's one of the reasons is to have a sign. So I would think that really needs to be done as well. And you have a logbook?
We do have a logbook. We started a logbook. It's one of those things that it gets laid out on the counter, and some people sign it, some people don't. And I brought it with me. We have not pushed it. Last month, actually, I started trying to say, look, if we have visitors come in, you know, get them to sign the logbook. We had a couple actually come in and sign it today, but we're not getting a lot of signatures. We're not getting as much walk-in traffic as we probably anticipated. As I reported back to you last month, or a few weeks ago, what we're seeing is a lot of our online stuff is where we're getting most of the direction. We're getting our information out through online more than anything.
Because you see what I'm saying? If you go point by point
I do.
with the contract, it's very specific here. And the first one is doing the aggressive advertising to promote the Battleground Golf Course and Republic Grill. And I know we talked about that at the last meeting, that possibly that's no longer necessary to do. And from the information that I gather, when you make your reports, that's where a lot of your push has been, and a lot of the dollars spent is for the golf course.
It has been for the golf course, but I would tell you that we try to use it as a general blanket to cover and to publicize the golf course as an amenity, as we would some of our other, because in some of our advertising. Now granted, the golf course was highlighted because that was a part of the contract. So what we might do is we might shift it to some degree, continue to leave the golf course in there, but yet highlight, I'll say, Art Park players, for instance. Maybe we want to do some stuff, highlighting some of the shows and so forth, you know, that they're going to be having. So it gives us some other options that we could do there. So I think, I think it would be one of those things that as we move forward and as the committee meets, discuss and look at the facts of do we want to maybe redirect some of those. Of course, that would be with council permission, you know, to change the contract or to focus in another area.
Do you only list on your website? Do you only list chamber members on the tourism link?
No, ma'am. We try to put everybody, as a matter of fact, in the brochures, we went back through and we put, matter of fact, what we did, one of the things that we did was, I want to use this page for an example, the local eateries that you see, those that are in dark are chamber members, but we do list everyone.
Okay. And do you only list Deer Park businesses?
I'd have to go back and look and see. There may be, I would think typically we would only list Deer Park businesses, but I'm not going to say that there's not one on, you know, maybe one that's on the border of Spencer, along that road. They could possibly be right on the edge or right on the fringe. The other thing is that some of our attractions, if you will, that we have, like the monument is a good example, and the battleship. Those are not actually located, quote, in Deer Park, but yet they're an attraction, a definite attraction for our city.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because more on the website, which is part of the contract as well, is to maintain a workable and easy to maneuver website. Going through the tabs, on your home, you've got the Fourth Fest flyer, which, have you looked at that? It's this one.
Yes, that's the one that the city produced, yes, ma'am.
Okay. It's real, have you looked, it's real hard to read on there.
Yes, ma'am, I agree with you. I think it's a little more difficult to read. What we did was, that was the one that was provided to us to market that event, so we utilized that individual flyer. It is a little more difficult to read on the website than what you probably would desire.
And then underneath that, it talks about Deer Park as a whole. And do you know why, like, Deer Park is in real little bitty letters? It's in a different font.
I'd have to see. I have no idea.
And some of the other cities are too. Just real small, it's just like links.
Maybe, it might be links. I'd have to go back and look at it. I couldn't. I mean, I honestly can't answer the question on that. But I'll be glad to look.
Okay. Okay, and under history, you have, information on the monument and the battleship, yet no link from either of those. And I'm saying, if I'm looking to truly visit Deer Park as an out-of-towner, if this is truly what we're doing here, which I think that's what our goal is, if I'm looking on the website, and I wanna visit the monument or the battleship, it says nothing about how I do that, where it's at, how to get there, no map link, no visiting hours, no, it just talks about the monument and the battleship and the history of them, and, you know, why they're important, but no information about visiting them.
All I can say is we'll look at it and see, I don't know why that's the case, why there's not a link on that particular, because I know we've
Has
tried.
anybody else up here looked at, really looked at the tourism? I mean,
I haven't stayed at that close.
anybody else?
If you look at where the cities are smaller and stuff, I'm assuming that in that format where that page was designed, it probably created a hyperlink, even though the hyperlink is not in there.
Yeah,
And so it's got the jacked up font on it.
Just looks
It-
odd,
yeah,
it's
it
not
doesn't-
consistent.
I'd have to go back and look at it, like I said, that could very well be the answer to the question, and I'll have to look at it and see.
And under arts, it talks about, of course, our wonderful art park players information, yet again, no link to a calendar, no link to what shows are coming up, and in fact, the only information it gives is a phone number to contact Susan Mealy if you want to participate in a play or volunteer.
I'll have to, I mean, again, on these links, I mean, and what you can do, I mean, we can go through each one of them if you'd like, but if you wanna give me a list of them, I
But
can
Tim,
look.
this is,
I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is that we were able to have links back to these sites, so I've got to go back now and look to see why these links aren't active.
but we've been doing this since 2011, paying you. In fact, we've paid you roughly about $142,000 so far.
Woo.
Yes, ma'am.
And you don't know what the website is doing.
I can see that, I'm not gonna say that I don't know what the website is doing. What I am gonna say is that there apparently is a problem with some of these links.
There's not a link.
Well, I'll have to look at it and see, because I know that we did, when we initially started, we did have links to some of those locations. I'll have to find out and answer the question. I think it's a great question.
Well, let's go on. Under recreation, it shows golf, and this is where I think we've spent most of our money pushing. On the golf, it has very little information, and still no link to how to schedule a tee time, how to find the golf course, how to look at the golf course. The park, underneath recreation, it has park. There's not a single picture of our parks, or a swimming pool, or Dow Park. It's got a list of facilities. No link to the pool hours, or, the great mile walking track in Dow Park, and the beautiful pavilion, and it's just got a plain white list. And this was probably the most shocking, under lodging, the very thing that pays the $70,000 a year to the chamber every year. It has 7 hotels listed, yet there's only links to Best Western and Candlewood. If you click on Comfort Inn, Hampton, Holiday Inn, La Quinta, and Super 8, it says no information. So, not even a phone number or their website. The other two have a nice picture of the lobby or something of the hotel. But if I wanted to book a room, if I'm an out-of-towner, there's not even a link to go to. I've got to look the number up myself. And that's the very thing that where the money comes from. Going on, restaurants. Robert's Jug and the Muffin is listed in 2 different places, yet it's been closed for months. There's new restaurants listed that's not even open yet, but so many missing. Gina's Italian Corner is listed. Has that opened yet?
It's biggest one's open.
Well,
This month.
it's listed. And do you know why some are listed in large, bold lettering, and then some are not in smaller
I would think that maybe those are some that are chamber members and what they probably did. That's a possibility. I'm not for sure of that. Well, I don't know why the thought would be. I have to go back and
Yeah,
look at the rest
no,
of
there's a lot of chamber members that are in small lettering.
the Okay.
Under ice cream, and snow cones, we don't have Baskin and Robbins listed. I mean, didn't they just receive like an award for being like the very top Baskin and Robbins, like in the nation, or not the nation, but they've done very well in this area.
Right.
Was it the nation? Okay.
And I believe, and I know that for a fact that I know we promote them on our Facebooks and things of that nature too. So I am.
But we're paying chamber $70,000 a year to run a cohesive, up-to-date, current website, and you're not doing it. Let me go on. Mexican, which we all know and love, there's Mexican restaurants all over, but Casa Ole's not listed, Jimmy Chonga's isn't listed, Mama Rita's, and Border Grill's not listed. But yet you have 2 Taco Bells listed. Spas and salons. We just honored Eclipse, didn't we, as our business of the year?
Yes, ma'am.
They're not listed under spas, neither is Beyond Beauty. In fact, there's nothing listed under spas and salons, nail salons, hair salons. If you go over to shopping, there's tabs for clothing, gifts, bookstores, pharmacy, and groceries. There's not a single business listed. Norma's Country Dreams is one of the, people come from all over the place to shop there, yet it's not listed. And lastly, when I click on Events tab, it shows to be bringing up a calendar, yet it never brings it up. So I assume that there's not one. So I have a real problem, Tim, and I know this sounds like I'm picking on you, and I'm not picking on you, but I have a problem. We have an in-house person that does this, yet we're spending so far $142,437.50 roughly since 2011, and we're not sure what that's done for us. And just because we have it doesn't mean we gotta spend it. I mean, I have parents tell me all the time that they want the girls' softball bathrooms, that they're terrible. Let's go fix the darn bathrooms and quit throwing money at advertising that we can't even prove that's doing anything. And really, I think we can do just as good of a job in-house. So, I mean, Mr. Mayor, I would submit that we terminate the contract with a 30-day written notice. It's specified in the contract for non-compliance with the agreement.
Technically, I don't think we can spend the hot taps to fix bathrooms or take a softball league. You know, I agree that we should be fixing the bathrooms at softball leagues. So,
Well, can I make a comment about that?
sure. It's technically not on the agenda.
Can I?
No, we shouldn't be talking about that, because it's not on the agenda.
Well, I have a question. I noticed in the contract, it does say that the city will have the right to appoint a minimum of 3 representatives to the chamber, marketing, advertising. Do we have that committee?
We do.
Who's on that committee?
It's currently me, Chris, and Becky.
You know what, I think that you guys need to, get busy and I particularly with the I know the art park players, they have a website, which is a very good, if you had a link to that, you know, that would be a good thing.
And
But if we wanna do something about this, we really do need to work on this. This is not something that's just gonna go away.
Agree. Would you like to be on with me?
Sure, I'd love to be on this.
What? Let me
and that was a suggestion I was gonna make. I'd love to have Councilwoman Sinor on our committee.
Yeah, me
She brings
too.
up some very, very good points. I think there's, I agree with a lot of the issues that you bring on.
Some of the new committee stuff is gonna come up very soon, I'll be doing some of that. And, I'm already thinking about that. I do think, we might have some concerns in this situation that need to be probably several areas of committees that we're gonna review and make some changes in committees that need to be made. Either way, I think what we're trying to do here is the right thing. There might be a meeting to adjust some of the approaches of some of this stuff. I think these are some very valid questions. So, I think before we even discuss looking at terminating this contract, I think maybe we should look at reviewing this committee and maybe get some people in there that's got some different views and review some of that stuff. I think before we look at terminating this, I think we're gonna have to take a broad approach of what we're doing in the hot taps before we do too much in some of that, is what I would like to look at. We're gonna do some issues like that, so, do you have any more questions?
Again, I'm not, you know,
No, and let me address that.
I'm not picking on you, Tim. It's very concerning that so many of the areas that it's very specific on this contract. You do this, you do this, you do this, and it's not being done. And that nobody knows that the webpage, which is the bread and butter and the easy part for an out-of-town guest, you know, that's where we know. We go to the chamber. When I'm traveling, that's where, if I wanna know, you know, where to go to the beach or where to rent something, I go to the chamber of that city. And, you know, that webpage we've had since 2011. And, I mean, it shouldn't have we're in, you know, 2.5 years later.
I will say, and I agree with every comment that you made about the webpage. And you brought out some very good points that I'm gonna check on and find out. I have a staff person that's in charge of that. I'm not blaming anybody, blame stops here. I take full responsibility. And so, when we started this webpage, and we went back and did it, we went through all those tabs. We went back through links, we went back, I agree with Garrison. We had the link that went back to the Art Park Players website, it went directly to their website. So something has happened, and I don't know what, and I think we'll find out what, because I think you bring up some very valid points. Any other questions?
No,
So we're gonna make some changes to the committee.
we're definitely gonna make some changes to the
Thank you.
discussion of issues relating to the appointment of a member to the Crime Control Extension Board.
I'll just say with Ms. Garrison going off the CCPD, we need to replace that position. And she has recommended Mr. O'Sullivan, who's back here in the back. I found out today his wife caught my daughter last year.